Hi, welcome to Boise State in the Community. My name is Alyssa LaRocca, and I am joined here today with Dr. Pera. How are you today?
Fine, thank you for having me.
Good. So you're originally from Argentina, and you completed your PhD and your Master's in Computer Science at Brigham Young University, correct?
Correct.
So what made you come to Boise after being at BYU?
So I first came from Argentina to Boise just to do my master's, and it was going to be a 2-year thing, and I was going to get to practice English and to try my hand at research that I didn't get to do as an undergrad. And when I finished my master's, I kind of discovered my passion for research, and I ended up doing the PhD. And then the time came and I said, well, am I going to go back home or am I going to find a job here? And so I went and I interviewed in a couple of places, and all the places that I interviewed, this one felt the most like home, like the town that I grew up. And so that was a big push for me to come here. And another thing I would say is, if I ended up here, I was gonna be part of a young department, the computer science department. Most of the faculty has been hired, or the size of the department tripled in the last 3 years. And so I was gonna get a chance to be part of defining the vision for the department as it grew and expanded. And I thought that was going to be very challenging. So,
wow, that's really awesome.
I ended up here.
Cool. So you teach a service learning class for computer science. Can you tell me a little bit about that, like about what you guys do in that class?
So I actually teach information retrieval. So for this specific class, I teach information retrieval for undergrads. Information retrieval is the part of computer science that deal with search and recommendation systems and understanding what users need in terms of information. And so one of the things that I thought that it would be interesting is to have the student think outside of the box and say, what happens when the user is not the average user, the expected user? And talking with Pera at Service Learning and Margaret, they suggested incorporating a module where we combine the teaching of how algorithms are not all designed for the same user, and then how do we bring that to the community and help out. So I thought it was an interesting challenge, and I jumped at the opportunity.
Cool. Do you teach any other classes?
So I teach information retrieval for grad students, and that was the first time I tried my hand at service learning, but I did more of what I thought it was a traditional service learning project. We just created, with the students that picked the service learning project, they created a piece of software, in this case a search engine or a variation of a search engine, for a community partner. And so I teach that class. Then I teach theory of computation for undergrads, and the seminar class I could teach with some of faculty colleagues. But the main challenge, I would say, last semester was the new project for service learning.
The new project,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? So you created you had your students create a search engine?
So that was for the grads.
That was for the grad students.
Created a search engine, and so that was just more natural. That's what they're used to. They pick a project, they find a problem, and then they implemented a solution and they code it. But for the undergrads, I didn't know what to do, because they wouldn't have time to do in full implementation. And so I went to the service learning for something else, for a grant that I'm working on to how to help children use search engines more effectively. And then the service learning group, like I said, Pera and Margaret, they were very interested in what I was doing for children. I said, have you thought about creating books? And for some reason, I didn't associate that at all with service learning. And so I had a very nice conversation with Margaret, and she gave me material to read and how she has used it in her own class. And I said, okay, we could do this. And so I created, like I said, a module where I make them think how algorithms are different, and then we put that in creating a book to teach children how to use search engines effectively, I would say.
Okay, that's awesome. So you worked with someone to kind of help create the assignment, come up with the assignment for your students.
Yes.
Did your students enjoy the assignment?
So I would say that I was terrified in a way, because I had other two projects that are more the natural way of projects that computer science students are used to, more of the developing something. This one was, they were going to have to completely think, the deliverable was going to be a story, like a storybook. And so we created rubrics to say what was the right vocabulary to use, what was the right level of complexity for whichever grade they pick. And I really thought they were going to say, okay, we'll do it, just so that you do a project to pass a class or something. And then it became this project that they became very engaged with, that they brought ideas from home, and so the students that have kids really talk about it with their kids and try to understand the challenges. The one that didn't, they try to thought about their own experience or their parents, and then try to put themselves in their shoes. How would they explain how to use a search engine? And we ended up with 14 books that are all different. They all tackle a different problem, and yet I was surprised.
Did they reach all different like age ranges too?
Yes, we have someone that is more of for parents to read to their children and to teach them how to do Boolean queries. And then we have the more self-involved and said, well, if you're creating a long query, what does it mean to parse all the words and understand what they mean and how the search engine would make that work in finding the information? And other ones ended up creating stories like very fictional or fantasy characters, and other ones made the information retrieval is the hero of like a superhero. And I was very, very surprised and happily surprised with the results.
That's good. So after your students have created the books, what do you guys do with them to incorporate them in the community?
So this one was the first time that we ended up doing this, and so I didn't know what was going to be the right alternative, and we got lucky. Once again, we partnered with Book It Forward. They're a community organization that they collect books, people donate books, and then what they do is they take it to different schools that are under-resourced. And so they said, well, this could be a good, not a storybook, but more of a teaching without feeling like a manual of this is step one. Because all the teaching was within a story on how to use a search engine.
It was a fun way for learning for the kids.
Exactly. And so we took it to the Book It Forward people, and in one of their book drives, they sent it out to schools, and then we got feedback from teachers that they really liked it, and they were trying to use it in their class. And so I'm thinking that I'm going to keep doing this project every time I teach this class and try to refine it. This one was the first time.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to refine it and give them more resources. Right now we're using a website to create a story so they don't have to create the images if they're not as practical, because that's not kind of the point. The point is that they think about a new concept in a different way and then explain it to another audience. And so, but all the students were like, well, what happens if we want to use our own pictures or want to do something? And so I'm going to try to incorporate that in the future. So if they really want to invest the time, that they can.
Yeah. So what are you hoping for your students to kind of get out of this assignment? Like, is it more for them to just kind of do something for service learning, or is it something for them to learn from?
No, I think that, well, the service learning it's a very good thing to do, and I think they connected right away on how they were doing. It wasn't just a homework that they were done, and then they were like, okay, I got the grade and I move on. They got to do something meaningful, and they got to share that with the community, and they saw that. We printed the books, and so they really, when I got them back to class, they really got that part. But in terms of the learning, the idea was to, like I said before, it's thinking of they're developing all these algorithms, and you go into developing that with an assumption. You assume who your user is going to be, and then you assume that the user is going to know how to use whatever algorithm or whatever system you develop. And it turns out that that is not true. Like a child is going to have different needs of vocabulary. If you're thinking, I was thinking of my grandma, how she would use a search engine. Well, she knows the vocabulary, she has the vocabulary, she has the readability levels, and yet she didn't grow up with Google. And so, and I'm biased because I work on search and recommendations, but in all the areas of computer science, you're going to find that you're going to make decisions. And the decisions that you make, they're going to influence the software that you develop. And so this was a good eye-opener, I would say, to think like, well, there are other users that are not the norm, and how do we want to serve them so that they can take advantage of our systems?
Cool. So out of the books that your students did this past semester,
Yeah, we did last semester.
Yeah, so what was your favorite story that one of the students had?
They were all very good. I would say one of the ones that I liked the most was the one dealing with Boolean queries. That is the Boolean queries and the words that sound the same or that they have a different sound. Those were the two that resonated the most. Teaching the concept of Boolean, it's hard even at the undergrad level, and so let alone for a child. And so the idea of having a baby and say, what do you want and what do you want to eat, and connect that first on the concept, and then how that would apply to the search engine, that if you're looking for a cat or if you're looking for a dog or if you don't really care and you look one and the other. I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And the word with the sounding, the words that sound similar. Sometimes children have trouble spelling, and so they sound the words out and they think they're writing what they mean, but not really.
Yeah.
And so showing them what happens when you think you're searching for one thing, but the search engine understood something different, and suddenly you end up with a whole new set of results that are not what you are hoping for. And so it's not that the search engine is broken, it's that there is lack of communication, if you like. And so those were two of my favorites.
Cool. So what is like something that you really want to leave, like, because how long have you been here working in Boise?
So this is ending my third year.
Your third year?
Yeah.
What's something that's like happened that you've been like most proud of, like in your time here in Boise?
I would say it's gonna sound weird, but this is one of the classes that I got to create a class from scratch, the information retrieval for undergrads and grads, because it wasn't part of the curriculum for computer science. And so I got the opportunity to give it my own twist and on what I felt that the way I learned it and the way I wanted to share that, and to be able to incorporate this idea of service learning. And so we had the one project that it was the pure development, and then the service learning projects that they would think about it. And then we have something where I give them the tool and they needed to use it and see where it works, where it wasn't. And so being able to help them learn from different perspectives, and yet they could get the takeaway of the concepts that are normal for an information retrieval class, that was one of the things that I'm the most proud of.
Cool. And then, so the program that you use to create the books, does that have graphics in? How do the graphics work for the books? Because
So
I'm assuming there's like pictures and stuff for the children.
Yes, and so sadly, it's a good way to start. And for someone like me, I cannot try my hand at it before I could teach them how to use it or give them hints. And so we use a story jumper, and they have some backgrounds, and they have a couple of characters that you could use, and a couple of animals that you can use, and some houses. And so it's limited, but the idea is that they wouldn't have to invest a lot of time in creating extra graph. It turned out that they wanted, and so sometimes they figured out a way to insert some things from other places, but that's how Story Jumper works.
Cool. So something else so in your other classes, are you trying, so I know that this is like the storybook is for your service learning class, but have you thought about kind of incorporating it into the other classes that you have?
So it could be a challenge, but then I also thought it was going to be a challenge at the undergrad level. It's hard to think of something service learning that the entire class can do, and that it fits with the curriculum that you're doing. And in computer science, it's a challenge, but it turned out that it wasn't impossible. And the service learning team was great at helping me tailor what I wanted out of that class. So it would be possible to do it in other classes. In the theory class, I don't see the service learning happening as much. But there are other classes in computer science. I was discussing the other day with my grad students and my undergrad student in my research team, that idea of there's literature that says that, for example, female in computer science, and to encourage female retention, especially on the first and second year, that idea of if we can make the connection of how algorithms tailor to solving real problems as opposed to the fictitious, we need an array to go one step at a time, or to count something. And one of the ways to connect that to a real problem would be to say, even what you learn, the tiny thing, how that would apply into solving a real problem. And so thinking about talking with other faculty at the earlier classes, 121 or 221, where students first start thinking of computer science and see if we can incorporate something like this would be a nice idea, I would say.
So this was your first semester doing it, but I know you said it went really well for your first semester doing it, but what would you change to make it, to, like, if it needed to be better, or what would you change?
No, I think there's always room for improvement. This one, maybe we can tailor more the idea of what are the specifications for the problem. The ones that have children, they knew the vocabulary ideas, but the ones that didn't, it wasn't enough to say you need to pay attention to the vocabulary. Maybe give them more specific resources, or open it to other. We did it with children because it related right away to what I was doing for my grant, and so for the research work that I'm doing. But in the future, I would like to say, well, think of a non-traditional user that you like, and it could be your parent, it could be an expert versus a beginner that on a particular topic doing search, that's still going to require different information needs and different solutions. So make it more open so that the students can relate to their own reality and being able to generate books that matter most to them. And so that's one of the things that I would change.
Cool. Well, I know that, so you have your PhD and master's in computer science, and then you went back. Did you start it in Argentina and then come here, or did you go back and then come?
No, so I grew up in Argentina and I did my undergrad there.
Okay.
And like I said, in Argentina, the school system is slightly different for undergrads. You pick what you want to do the first day, as opposed to here that you have more generic classes and you have your major. There you pick what you want to do, and then those are the only classes you take and you commit to it.
Yeah.
And so, but 10 years ago, and now it's starting to change, but 10 years ago, we didn't have the opportunity to do research at all.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of do that, try my hand at research, see if I was going to like it. Practice English, because I barely learned at the high school level, and then so it was going to be another challenge. And like I said before, it was supposed to be a 2-year thing that I came, I did my master, and then I would go back and work there, and then it changed kind of the course of my life. I ended up.
But you've been enjoying your time here, and you think you're going to stay?
Very much. Yeah, I feel like I have settled here. And I found the path that I want, and I didn't think I would have the opportunity to do research and work hand by hand or side by side with the students as I do here, and that is something that I really enjoy. So
that's good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for joining us. This has been Boise State in the Community. My name is Liz LaRocca. Have a good night.